Welcome to the Bridge of Two podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome. Held my breath for
go.
that.
What? Yeah, oh, that's why you're like gasping as you said it.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hasn't stopped. Yeah. Welcome back to the Bridge of Two podcast, where the microphones always work right.
Always work right. We are perfect at editing and making sure everything sounds good. And by we, I mean Josh. And by that, I mean I don't do anything because I'm lazy, apparently.
I don't think it's because you're lazy. I haven't empowered you. But
I should help out.
I don't know.
I have more time now. I can help out.
But then if you edit, you might leave things in I would cut out.
Oh.
Like everything. You'd be like, I'd like give you the computer. You'd be like, it's done.
You've been working on it for 5 seconds. Like, yeah, it's perfect, dude. Flawless episode.
Just like add the thing at the beginning, add the thing at the end. It's done.
Flawless. Probably.
There are episodes where I don't do much editing because we're just so on point. But then there are episodes where we're kind of, long pauses. We're kind of getting our thoughts together, and it just got to streamline it a little bit more.
Got to kind of shorten those pauses, make it sound like we know what we're talking
exactly.
about. Yeah.
Sound like it's just like that idea sparked immediately instead of, you know.
I've learned that most podcasts do that.
Oh, you have?
I think a lot of them do.
I think they do too.
I think the only ones that don't are the ones that like Critical Role obviously doesn't because they're live.
Right. Any video podcast, unless you see the jump cut, you know, it's going to be pretty much uncut.
Brandon Sanderson's a perfect person, so his aren't cut.
But, you know, it's like whenever you have the video aspect of it, it's not as noticeable, or it is noticeable. I mean, like you're still looking at something, even if you're not hearing anything.
And there's usually hand movements and stuff like that, so... Whereas for here, if there's a pause, it's just dead silence and you don't hear anything.
Although on Brandon Sanderson's podcast, there have been times where it will just like cut out audio. Like and it seems intentional. Like he said something and they were like, no, we don't want that. And I'm guessing it was something that
spoilers.
After the fact, he was like, oh, I don't want that spoiler. But then never explain it. Like, so just awesome. Like, what were they saying? We need a lip reader.
That's hilarious, though.
And then there was one episode where something was wrong with the camera filming Brandon Sanderson, and so they just put a parrot on that half of the screen. So it was Dan Wells just talking to a picture of a parrot. It might have been animated. One of them was animated.
That's amazing.
Or it was like, or not animated, but it was like a video.
I love the commitment.
Anyway,
that's fun.
That's a little side tangent there.
Yeah, but we don't have that here. We just have pure voices and silence.
Flow.
When
we get in that flow, that podcast flow.
Podcast flow.
Long pause. Hey, before we go any further,
okay,
I have to say this because for like 3 episodes, I've been meaning to say it.
Okay. And
that is that we have been doing this for a year.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have.
I made a social media post about it, but...
Over a year now.
Well over, because it was June 17th, I think.
Holy cow, really?
So we're at the end of... Actually, this is the beginning of August that we're recording this, so...
Can't believe we started this a year ago and are still doing it.
Can't either.
Good for us,
amazing.
Man. Good for us.
I mean, we did say that we wanted to, like, do it... Consistently for a good long while. We have, pretty much.
And I enjoy it. It's not like, we're not like thousands of viewers, but it's still fun.
No, not thousands. Not thousands, but under there somewhere.
I did.
Under there.
I did intentionally say not thousands.
I mean, not hundreds
on purpose. I was like, not thousands.
That's what you got to do.
Makes it sound like we're doing at least decent. Who knows? Maybe one day an episode will blow up.
As far as like averages, like if you like, there's so many podcasts out there, you know? And I mean, I think there's probably a crazy statistic out there too about how many podcasts are born every day. And how many die every day.
You just need to become a famous writer, and then people will listen to our podcast.
I know that's how the best do it. Mm-hmm. They have some kind of draw of their stardom.
You either need to become a famous writer, or I need to become a famous artist. Artiste.
We could do a, reread podcast. You know how they do like rewatch podcasts? Like Parks and Rec actor will be like make their own rewatch podcast of Parks and Rec. Like the Office ladies, they're rewatching The Office.
We'll reread your book.
So then, book reread. After that, but the book has to be big first.
I feel like we'd have to do a few on Mithril, your free stuff.
That will be fun. Actually, I would love to do like some kind of mini segment on that as they actually start releasing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Oh man, what was I gonna say? I was just gonna say something. Oh, it'll come to me at one point, I'm sure.
Flawless. Pure flow.
Pure.
It's so satisfying seeing us laugh and the thing is not like spiking uncontrollably.
I mean, I can laugh and make it spike out of control.
No, don't.
No, please. I beg of you.
We're doing so well. So, who should start this part?
Go for it.
Okay.
What have you been up to, Josh?
This is the segment where we talk about the sci-fi and fantasy realms we've been dipping our toes in this week.
Do you remember what I wanted to say? And I will say it when it's my turn to talk about.
Okay, good.
Because it has to do with that anyway. So.
Okay, good. I've read more Wax and Wayne, Alloy of Law. That's the first book in the Mistborn Era 2 series. That is the fourth and final book in that series is releasing in September? I know the launch party's in November.
I thought it was releasing in November.
I mean, that's when the launch party is technically at the Dragonsteel conference.
What's it called?
It's called
Lost Metal, right?
Yeah, the Lost Metal. Yeah.
We are going to that. So
yeah. By the way, listeners,
anybody who you're here who haven't listened to us is going to that.
And we should totally podcast about it.
You can meet
people,
Josh and Jeremiah,
who have been to the Dragonsteel. Oh, you're saying if anyone's at the conference,
there, they can.
Yeah. But we could network. We should network. Oh, I wish we had Bridge of Two. We could get we have time.
It says it's releasing November 15th.
Okay. Which is after the conference. So yeah, that is released.
When's the conference? Conference 15th to 16th.
I think it's 14th, 15th.
Negative. Ghost Rider.
Positive.
November.
Ghost Smeller.
Oh, you're right. 14th to 15th.
Don't try me.
So it's releasing the second day of.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the release part. Like the release party is at the conference.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a cool part of this is that this is a release party for a book. It's not just like, it's cool. It'd be cool to go to Dragonsteel conference, but we're also going to the release party for the final book in the Wax and Wayne series.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing my reread of that here pretty soon.
Yeah. So I've been reading that.
Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. Actually, I already told you what part I just listened to, so I won't say it. But there's a really cool part involving the magic system that is cool. I don't want to spoil it. The magic system is really cool, though. It's just like you told me about how they use the magic system, how the magic system kind of gets evolves a little bit from the first book, and that's really cool.
Well, it's really cool too how he utilizes the magic system in a more slightly modern era than fantasy. I
just love the speed bubble thing, like how that's a thing that can be done, and I love the this is just general information about this era of Mistborn, is that you can have people that have a ferochemical ability and an allomantic ability.
Yep.
And that's really cool to see how those get combined. Anyway.
And I just really like how he uses, it's interesting because most magic fantasy settings take place in a medieval type era, right? Swords, bows, stuff like that. It's really interesting to see this magic system that we've seen in that type of era, swords, bows, and all that, now mixing in guns.
Yeah.
And seeing how the magic system is used and works, it's very interesting. It really feels like the world is growing, which is, I'm sure, obviously what he wanted. It's just super interesting. I really like it.
I saw a meme about the Cosmere, and it was like the real reason that Brandon Sanderson wrote the Cosmere is because he hates aluminum. Like, and he's just, it's a vehicle for him to hate on aluminum because no matter what world you're on, aluminum is like causes a problem
always
for investiture.
Love it.
Anyway, so that's fun. It's also fun that, as we kind of alluded to, we're going to his conference that he started last year as a way to do a conference but not go to all the big cons anymore, so he can have more time to write like he did during the pandemic. He basically is having everything close to home, and we are going to go. We bought our badges.
I'll be buying my plane tickets here pretty soon.
I have everything.
I'm excited. Super excited.
Yeah, me too.
Are you reading
Trying to read them all?
the Alloy of Law, or are you listening to it?
Audiobook. Now, I should try to get my Kindle going, like charged up again, and get it on there so I can do both, because I always burn through books a lot quicker when I can go back and forth, when I can listen while I'm doing something, but then when I'm like, I don't have anything good to do, I'll read. You know. So I should do that but I'm a little over halfway done, I think.
Oh, nice. I mean, they're short books.
Yeah.
I plan on knocking them out pretty quickly, that's why I haven't started them yet.
I mean, basically have a month to finish each book, you know, so it shouldn't be too bad. But besides that, Destiny 2. Playing Destiny 2.
Very fun.
So
both been playing that together.
Yeah.
With our friend Caleb, which has been on the podcast once or twice.
Yeah, it's fun. I played it in the past, like a few years ago, and I just haven't played it in a long time, and re-downloaded it, and it is a fun game, especially to play with people, you know, so.
Yeah, I played Destiny 1 way back when it came out, initially, and I never really played Destiny 2. I did once when they did, back when it was still, you had to pay to play the game.
Uh-huh.
They did like a free event, and I picked it up and played it for like a day.
Yeah.
And then stopped. I don't remember why, but yeah, picking it back up again this time and playing it, like I'm super enjoying it.
It's fun. It's fun to play a good shooter, you know.
It is
a little bit fast paced, and the role playing element, like the MMO element of this, you know, it's a fun blend for sure.
Well, I remember even telling my brother that I've been wanting, like I've just been wanting a nice, like kind of like first person shooter-esque game that I can play competitively too. And so like there is that with Destiny 2, although their multiplayer, their PvP is a lot harder than like Call of Duty. It's just because I'm not used to the way it plays as far as like PvP goes, but yeah. But I've been enjoying everything else so far and all the PvE and yeah, just the MMO. Just an MMO is fun in general, especially when you have people to play with.
Right. And
that was one of the reasons why I don't think I was ever able to really stay into Destiny when it first came out. It's because I didn't have anybody to play with. Yeah. Played with my brother a little bit, but that was when we lived together, so we shared a console.
Yeah, I feel Destiny 2 is definitely a game where I feel like you need friends to play with, because some MMOs, the story can just be kind of pull you in enough. And this one, it's not like it's a bad story, but it's a little thin, you know.
Free to play stuff is definitely very thin, and you have to jump, like I was telling you earlier, you kind of have to jump in at weird places, because it's I guess the way they do their world is like an ever evolving story, so you can't like go back and do past content.
Right.
And
right, so you just jump in wherever the story is at.
It's like right now you're at the Witch Queen, so we're focusing on it, but now you have characters and stuff that you have no clue what they are, who they are. Yeah,
I've noticed that when I've been playing the campaign stuff, where it's like they'll reference this character, and clearly the characters, like your characters, know who they are, but you're like, oh.
And that's why I watched this like 2-hour long video, which I can send you if you have the time and want to watch it, but it was informative. I sent it to Caleb earlier. But that helped clear up a lot of things and kind of at least give me a basic understanding of what's happened. Yeah. Because I plan on getting into Witch Queen expansion, so that when I play that, I kind of understand who the main bad guy is and why, and who these other people are. And then hopefully from there I can kind of continue with the story as it goes along.
One more thing before I'm done. I need to give a shout out to my wife.
Oh, shout out. Shout out.
Because she surprised me for my birthday with a signed leatherbound by Brandon Sanderson of Mistborn, the first book in the Mistborn series. And it's really cool.
What a gift.
Awesome illustrations and just really cool. It's signed by Brandon Sanderson. He signs them when he does these live streams. So it means at some point on a live stream, I probably saw it because I've watched most of his live streams.
It is such a pretty book. And I just even flipping through, like, it's almost like got its own mini art book in it too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it for me.
I want one.
I think those are less expensive than the Stormlight ones.
Well, the Stormlight's 2 books. It's technically $200.
Oh, right. So that makes sense.
Because like Way of Kings is 2 book. They split into 2. So I think this one's only. I think each leatherbound's $100. Each leatherbound book is $100.
You're right. Yep.
Which all in all isn't that bad for the quality of the book. I feel like, especially the being signed. But I don't know. Cool. Sounds like it's been a fun couple weeks for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I've been writing too,
obviously,
but that'll all be out there whenever the time comes.
We will announce it when
when it goes live.
When it goes live, definitely. You'll probably get a post on the Instagram and everything. Cool. Well, I've actually done quite a bit this week. Past week, 2 weeks.
I expected nothing less.
I finished school, so paramedic school is done, and now I have free time again. And it feels great. I've been playing Destiny 2, as we were just talking about.
2. You've been playing Destiny 2 too.
I have. I think we initially were gonna, because me, you, and Caleb were trying to find a game to play.
Yeah.
And initially it was Warframe. Started playing Warframe, which got was far more confusing than Destiny 2 is.
You're right. Yeah.
And so I was like, let's try Destiny 2 because that's also free. And I fell in love with it pretty quickly.
It actually reminds me of Destiny. Like, Warframe does remind me of Destiny 2. The map is very similar. Mm-hmm. It's like laid out by the solar system.
The way it goes, yeah.
And then it's a shoot. It's more action oriented. It's more third person, but It's
just so much. Good. And I feel like it's just a lot.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
And they're constantly, like, they're updating it so fast.
I think it just got updated again.
I'm sure it did.
Destiny 2 just seemed a little bit easier to get into. And I've been wanting to play it for a bit, so that's why we switched over to that. And I'm enjoying it. Caleb's enjoying it, so.
Yeah. There's higher, like, production value of, like, the levels and missions and stuff. So.
I just laid out a little bit more like a generic MMO where, like, I feel like it's easier to find the raids and the
you're
strikes
right.
and dungeons and stuff like that.
It's a little convoluted in Warframe how to like get to stuff sometimes.
Plus, and I think I was telling you guys this when we were playing Warframe. I've also just wanted a nice loot drop shooter game,
right? And
Destiny is literally that.
The loot dropping in Destiny 2 is so satisfying.
I love killing a boss and watching a bunch of purple, and orange,
Engrams.
And green and blue things just pop out of their bodies. I love those types of games. I've been playing that. Still been playing a little bit. I think I said last podcast I started playing Xenoblade.
Right.
Played a little bit more of that, not too much. A little bit more. That's still it's an interesting story. Biggest thing I've done is I started a new book finally. Malazan, Book of the Fallen. That book series. I started that. First legit series that is new for me since I started paramedic school. I think. I don't think I've started a new series since I started paramedic school. I've either gone back or I've done a reread, or I think I read Rhythm of War during paramedic school. So this was the first new series, and it is really good. I'm halfway through the first book. I think I've said this to a couple of people. It is the most confused I have been reading a book, but also the most intrigued I have been reading a book.
Are you still confused?
Very much so. I kind of had the basic understanding of what's happening, but the way the author does it, and it seems like it's a pretty common, because I've seen reviews, it's pretty common among most people, is that the way he just writes and does things is he just throws you into this world, and you kind of just got to figure things out through context clues of who these people are and who these people are and why this is happening here, how the magic system even works. It's not, he doesn't do exposition. You're not getting exposition dropped on you. It's really? you pick things up through conversation from the characters.
Is it first person or third person?
Third and first? I think it's third and first. No, I think it's first.
Is it I do this, I do that? Or is it...
Yes, with different characters. So each chapter is actually broken up in sections where you have it'll switch perspectives.
Okay, that makes sense. Because first person you're directly in their head, so there's not really going to be much exposition.
So there's not a lot of exposition. So it's a lot of just kind of figuring things out. So I'm like learning more about these different people, but then there's a lot of things where just like, and I'll even show you later. Like the front couple pages has like a list of like mainish characters. It's like 3 pages worth of main like characters in here that they have like that. Like you can like this is who this is. Not to say that like they're super important, but they are part of the story.
That's interesting. I mean, that's good to do. That's smart.
Yeah, I've referenced it multiple times. But it's really good. I mean, it's very quickly gave me. I was able to really feel the vibe of the story, and like it just really the way it's just written, put a dark, really nice image in my head of the world, and everything like that. And it's just super cool. The magic is super weird and interesting. It has to do with like, still don't even fully know yet. But from what I'm gathering, it has to do with like there's these sorceresses and mages and stuff like that who can access these things called warrens, which are basically like, I guess like other planes almost, where they can pull magic from it. Each warren has a specific name, a specific type of magic, and these people can pull from it. They can even travel into these things. And each of these warrens are ruled or whatever by a god, God, Lord G or whatever. And some of these gods are newer. Some of these gods are like, they have like these elder gods and like these elder magic and stuff like that. And like some gods are like, if you don't have a follower anymore, then you're called like an ascent. You're called something, an exiled or something like that. I don't know. A lot to it.
Interesting.
It's just weird.
Very pantheistic.
It's definitely more of a soft magic system than it is hard. For sure. But the characters are interesting. You don't really know who's good and who's bad right now.
Do you suspect
you have characters who are kind of like your main characters that like you kind of are rooting for?
Are they at odds? Like, are they all kind of working towards the same stuff, or are they working towards different things?
You don't fully know.
Okay.
I think one character is being played by another character, but also possibly being played by another character. That's also the main focus of the story too, though, is like what's happening within this stuff is like now you have this war going on between this empire and these other free cities. And then something has happened where like some gods have now come down and have gotten involved in the thing, got involved in this war and are like making plays, but like behind the scenes. And what is kind of like a main factor is the god of chance. They call him Opon. The brother and a sister has now put their hand in the game. And since their hand's in the game, no one really can figure out what's going to end up happening because chance is involved now. And it's like one character was killed. And then, like, before he could walk through Death's door into Death's Warren, the God of Chance came in and basically, like, traded his life for someone else. It was weird.
Okay.
I don't know. It's probably a book I'm going to have to reread a second time to understand anything.
Yeah.
But it's super, super intriguing. And it's, like, enough to where, like, I've been reading it for like a week. I'm already halfway done. You know, I mean, it's...
Okay, and what's the name of the first book?
Gardens of the Moon. Let me grab it. I can find out. Yeah. First book is called Gardens of the Moon. It's a Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson.
Can I see it? A Tale of the Malazan Book.
I love the names of the characters.
This is dense.
One of the main characters' name is Whiskey Jack.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if it's a real name, but there was like some weird like magic resurrection system where some guy was dying and they transferred his soul into a marionette. And now this marionette is going around traveling into these different warrens to find out who the bad guy is. It's like wild.
It is a living marionette?
Mm-hmm. It was a person. They transferred his soul into the marionette.
Wow.
If you go to the very front.
I like how this feels like it has heft to it, even though it's a paperback.
Yeah.
It's a quality
if you
paperback.
go...
I saw like all the place names in the back. Okay. Dramatics Personae. Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, very good. I was going to read the Lightbringer series.
Right.
But I saw this and I was like, I'll just pick it up and check it out. And I'm loving it. So
nice.
I started an audiobook today, kind of just out of random. The first Dresden Files book.
Okay. Who's that by?
Oh, man.
Butcher, right?
Jim Butcher.
Jim Butcher.
I found it on accident on YouTube, and honestly, I've listened to like 30 minutes of it, and it's enjoyable. It seems very interesting. You can definitely tell the first book, like this series has been going on for years.
Yeah, there's tons of
and you can
books.
definitely tell from the audiobook, like it sounds like something I was like in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'll play it for you later. Like it definitely
sounds, like the recording
recording sounds old and like just something that seems like it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But it seems interesting. It's an interesting. I heard good things about it. I think
Daniel Green.
Daniel Green has
gotten into. I think he recently kind of got more into it.
Yeah, so he's had good things to say about it. I'm trying to think.
What is Jim Butcher? Like, what is Dresden Files? Is it urban fantasy?
Urban fantasy.
Okay.
It takes place in like
he's like, I know he's like some kind of like investigator or something.
He's a wizard.
Right? Oh.
He's a wizard investigator.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like, you ever watch Supernatural?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Kind of like that, where there's like supernatural around the world, but no one knows about it. And you have like, Demon Sand, they hunt them. Okay. Well, Dresden's like that, except he's an actual wizard. But he's a lot more of like in the news, like he's got a Yellow Books pages under wizard. And people can call him and like, but he like but people don't necessarily, like a lot of people like, I think there's like the first part of the book it talks about like, no one like either like think he's crazy because he calls himself a wizard or whatever, but like he can actually use magic and like, but that's how this book started, was like there was like some murder and the police have actually called him in to help see if it might be a supernatural type of thing.
That's cool. I actually like that.
Yeah, so it seems interesting. Short books. It's only an 8 hour.
I feel like they tried to make that into a show. I feel like they tried to adapt it and they didn't do a very good job.
I think that's what I heard too.
Because that seems like something that would, if you could do it right, would be a really good show, Well,
it's even like the Supernatural show,
right? Supernatural.
I thought that was a good show, but this sounds like it'd be even better because he's an actual wizard,
right?
So, I don't know. It's I'll let you know how it goes. I'll let you know how it is, but it was fun listening to it earlier. I think the only other thing I've really done though now is I'm getting caught back up on my D&D podcast, Not Another D&D Podcast.
Oh, okay.
Which is fun. They're in their third campaign, and how they did it was their first campaign took place on this world called Bohemia, and a lot happened, and this crazy stuff happened. And then their second campaign, they actually went to a different world. Like he made a different world for their campaign. But the third campaign they're doing now takes place back on Bohemia, but like 200-300 years later.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So it's cool to be back on that world.
Yeah, that's cool.
He makes,
and to see it probably like changed and stuff.
And I'm waiting to see like, actually there was a character name that dropped that was in the first campaign, and she's like a queen of the mountains because she's a dwarf and they live longer. So
okay, yeah, makes sense.
So it'll be cool when they go and talk to her. So that's I've been enjoying listening to that. That's what I was gonna tell you earlier too. They maybe think of whatever they have. They had what started that podcast, not another D&D podcast, was you had the three of them. There's 4 on the podcast, but there were 3. Murphy, Caldwell, and I cannot remember her name. Murph's wife, Emily, and they had a book called 8-Bit Book Club, where they would read like Sonic. What are they called?
Like a novelization of Sonic,
like a novelization of Sonic, or like D&D playbooks.
Oh,
where
okay.
you make the story, like stuff like that.
Oh, okay,
but silly stuff. It's basically books based off of games. But they just recently started. But that's what started. So they were doing that, and then they had their friend come on. They made D&D characters, and then that's what ended up branching off into Not Another D&D Podcast. Huh. Well, on their main feed, they've been doing a couple 8-Bit Book Club episodes, new ones, and they did one on Animorphs.
Oh my!
They read
gosh.
the first Animorphs book.
I used to love that show when I was a kid,
and it was such a funny episode because then during their short rest that they do, their second podcast off the podcast. They usually talk about the episode or whatever happened, but they went and did like a lore deep dive, a wiki deep dive, as they were calling it, or something like that. And they started the one guy Murph started spoiling all the stuff for the later seasons. Everyone's like, I was gonna read it. And it became like a whole 20-minute spat of them being like, you weren't gonna read it.
I never read those books, but I remember those books being around. I watched the show, but yeah,
there's a show.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if it was based. I don't know if the books were based off the show or vice versa, but yeah, the show was a little traumatizing.
The books sound wild. I've seen Animorphs. Like, I've seen the book around. I did not know it had to do with what it has to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, aliens and stuff like that. Like,
people transforming animals.
Like a war going on. Like, I didn't know. These kids die.
Yeah. Well, there's something that from that show that kind of like has a little bit of a scarring memory of there was these things. I don't know if they were the aliens or if they were like being used by the aliens in this war or whatever. But they were these slug things.
Yeah.
And they would get into their ears.
And they would take people over.
And yes, and that was creepy as anything, because just like imagining like anything like feeling like something's near your ear and then you're just like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Published between June 1996 and May 2001, the series consists of 54 books.
Holy cow. They're probably really short.
Yeah, I mean, they're children's, fantasy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was really funny. And then thinking about, reading books on here, and I don't know, it's just interesting.
So what you're saying is you want to do an Animorphs read through?
Yeah, what I'm saying is we should read
show.
Animorphs, all 54 books.
Yeah.
And talk about it on this.
3 books an episode.
Send us an email. DM us if you would like us to read Animorphs and do a deep dive into it.
And if you email us and tell us we should do it, we will do it.
We will. At least the first book.
Try us.
Call our bluff.
Yeah, we are begging you. I'm literally begging you.
That's been about it for me, though.
I don't know.
But it's been a productive week of fantasy stuff.
Nice.
Got to get my fill in.
You have only begun.
I've been sorely lacking.
Awesome. Well, we are going to come back in a minute. Unless do we need to do something else yet?
No, I think.
Did you say the thing you were remembering?
8-Bit Book Club.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to come back in a minute, talk about the first 3 episodes of Arcane.
I don't actually remember what my point was for that. I had
You
a
had a point?
I had a point with it. It doesn't matter.
You had a point? We don't have to have points on this podcast.
A point in my mind.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we're going to go on a break. We'll come back with some drinks. And
yes, we're going to have a drink that we're trying to make it be like this thing in Arcane called Shimmer, that when you drink it, it makes you like kind of go a little bit crazy and strong and glowing blue veins.
Which will be fitting for this episode. Or be fitting for it'll make us go wild and
hopefully
glow. And
so we'll be back soon.
We'll be back. With weapons.
Probably. With weapons.
Don't worry about it.
With weapons. We're back on the Bridge of Two podcast.
Yeah.
You ruined that. Curse you. Hey, now you ruined that.
Curses.
Curse you.
You foiled my plans again. If it weren't for you pesky kids, and your stupid dog too.
Scooby-Doo reference, huh?
Yeah, Scooby-Doo reference.
Well,
we should watch Scooby-Doo. That's the next show.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Next show we should review.
Which we need to review which version of it is the best, because there's like 3 or 4 different.
There's a lot more than 3 or 4 versions, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I've only watched 3 or 4. And there's the movies, which were not appropriate for children.
They really aren't. It is insane that those were shown.
They really pushed the envelope.
And pushed as kid shows. Because they really were making some...
It's like, these kids aren't grown up yet.
It's like, wow, that was... Phew.
Rana. We are back, and we have our purple shimmer that turns us into raving monsters.
Hence the opening to this episode.
We're gonna post a video of the concoctions we made. It looks really, really
cool, actually.
Cool and unsafe to drink.
But as far as we're aware, safe to drink.
But so far, we're alive. Of course, it did make the air in your kitchen like shimmer. Like you're literally
that was so cool.
The air was sparkling.
I felt like we were alchemists for a minute.
I know. It was like
the overflowing glasses and the shimmer in the air.
Hex tech. Like we harness the hex tech.
Hex tech. Okay, we'll get into it. Hex tech is so cool.
So yeah, Arcane is a Netflix show that is based in the world of the game League of Legends.
It's on Netflix.
That I've never played.
Yeah. I haven't either. Like two.
And it's been around a long time, that game.
It's a MOBA.
Yeah.
And I just can never get into them.
Yeah, me either.
But
the show is fire.
The show, if you haven't watched the show, it's on Netflix. Go give it a watch. I'm sure you can find one friend that has a Netflix account that you can go.
It's like it's like CG, like stylized kind of CG.
It is like it's interesting. It's a CG, but it's also a 2D. But it's also got
just got stylized elements.
A lot of the backgrounds are like 2D painted.
Oh, painted? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's very interesting. I watched a video on it.
I heard they were storyboarding it for years.
I believe it. I mean, I'm pretty sure the animation team was actually really small.
That makes sense for why they would take so long to storyboard it. But I got that from Brandon Sanderson's podcast talking about Arcane. I guess
we're a podcast.
Dan Wells knows some of the people who are involved in it. Dan Wells does, apparently. But yeah, we are a podcast talking about it. So now you can know about it. Talk about it on your podcast, listener. Anyway, it is an adult show, mostly PG-13. Later episodes, I think there's at least like one scene that you should skip if you don't want to see animated love. And
animated love is the best way to put that.
And I skipped that scene. So anyway,
yeah, I think I warned you about that.
You did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But
so real quick, so the backgrounds are digitally hand painted.
Okay.
And the textures on characters is crafted to get that graphical look that fits with the environment. We also mainly use 2D animation for the FXs to reinforce the painted look. And the details is slightly more complicated, but it's more or less how you end up with something that looks like an illustration. I just real quickly, I'm going to start off with this.
Do it.
Before we get into the story or anything like that. The animation in this show is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
If you are an art buff, an animation buff, if you like anime, or just any of that type of, or that stuff fascinates you, give Arcane a watch, because I'm telling you, the art style and the animation is magnificent. It is some of the best I have seen, and I watch a decent bit of anime and animation, and I've dabbled in it a little bit myself, and it is truly phenomenal. How they did it. And like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure it's a smaller team that did it. But just the way they handle everything, I mean, it is a beautiful show to watch. Colors are very vibrant and everything like that. The contrast and everything, it's just beautiful. But what's also cool about this show too is it's kind of League of Legends, the Riot Games, the people who do League of Legends. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this is their first little like jump into a different genre. Right. For their world, because League of Legends has been strictly League of Legends in that game, but there's lore for the game and there's characters, and each characters have lore and kind of a story, whatever, from what I gather. But this is their first jump into a new medium.
Yeah.
And they've since then have released another game, a RPG, turn-based RPG game. They've released, or they're about to release a book coming out in September, which I plan on reading. They're in the process of making season 2 of Arcane and an MMO and another game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Riot Games is really starting to branch out their mediums, and I'm telling you what, this shows what really got me excited for the lore and the story that they can do with this stuff. Like the world of League of Legends is...
The lore is really, I mean, the way they treat the lore in the show, it's very interesting because there's a gray aspect to it. Mm-hmm. And it makes it very interesting. You know, you have the Piltover, right? Mm-hmm. Piltover is the city that the show takes place in. And when I say the city that it takes place in, because the underground part, what would you call that? I mean, they call it Zon is what it's going to become. They're trying to make it become its own independent city, but it's basically the underground. The lanes is another thing they call it. It's where the dregs of society are, the people that are lower class are down in this underworld kind of place, more on the surface level. And there's good people in both places.
Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead. What is it called?
The utopian city of Piltover and the seedy oppressed undercity of Zon.
Zon, yeah. I mean, Zon is like technically it's not recognized as Zon, but that's like the dream of Vander, who is like Vander and Silco. They were both like revolutionaries together and kind of split on their ideas whenever they actually tried to enact the revolution. It got so bloody that Vander was like, this isn't worth it. And Silco was like, yes, it is. And so that's an interesting aspect of the show where it's like Silco he wants something good in a sense. He wants independence, for those people. He's an interesting character because he said that he decided in the moment, basically when I guess Vander is like breaking up with him in a sense. He's like,
Andy, you're breaking my heart.
Killing him because they didn't really elaborate on that, except I just understood it that maybe Silco wouldn't give it up, and so Vander just decided this had to be done, kind of thing.
I don't remember if they really expand on it much in the show at all. They might get that in like a season 2 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But, Vander was trying to give it up. Silco didn't want to. But Silco basically at that point decided the way to succeed is to become whatever you have to become to succeed.
And that's where Vander...
And that's where he goes off the rails. And whereas Vander, he came back away from that edge. He's like, he saw what he'd have to become, or what they'd have to do. And
Vander is such a cool character, and you definitely notice in the first couple episodes, he is a leader. Mm-hmm. And he's someone who understands that bloodshed isn't the way to success or to prosperity or anything like that. And that, bloodshed's only going to get you so far. That's what I like about his character, is that he really tries his best to do what he can for his people without causing more issues. And that pisses people off.
Because they want to fight.
They want to fight and they feel oppressed, which, I get it. But
he's definitely not an ends justify the means. He's like, no, the journey matters, right? Journey before destination kind of idea.
Journey before destination.
It's like how we get there matters. I'm not willing to sacrifice this, and this in order to get what you want, whereas Silco is.
Which it's an interesting dichotomy because both can technically be right.
That is a kind of theme in the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because even on the top side, right, you have when they start to dabble with the hex tech, there's a little bit of pushing it. It's kind of, that's the what's his name? The little guy on the council.
I just know he's the head dean or whatever of the school. Heimerdinger?
Heimerdinger, that's it. Yeah, Heimerdinger.
Cecil Heimerdinger?
Yeah, Heimerdinger. He's basically like, magic can only lead to bad things. We can't do magic. On the top side, the story is this young guy who's trying to figure out how to merge magic and technology. Because when he was a kid, he was saved by magic. It's just like Wizard just out of nowhere just like saved him and his mom. And so ever since he's been obsessed with it. And he's kind of got an ends justify the means mentality a little bit with it. Or Victor pushes him a little bit. This Victor is Heimerdinger's assistant until he decides to jump over to, what's his name, Steve?
Jace.
Yes.
Jace Talus.
Jace.
It's interesting because at least these first couple episodes, you actually really kind of have two different stories going on, but they are slightly intertwined at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because you have the story of Vi and Jinx and their little band of people and Vander and all that. And then you have Jace and his desire to make magic. Right. But then there's Heimerdinger doesn't agree with it.
Right.
I think kind of the point of the city is it's meant to be a city without magic.
Yeah.
Something happened, some sort of event that caused death or something like that. I don't remember fully. Mm. With magic, and so they kind of pride themselves on being a city without magic, and it's all technology, and that's what the school is about, is technology and going through the science.
Right.
But Jace he is in the role of he wants to he's basically trying to use science to make magic.
Right.
which is really cool concept in my opinion. But you also obviously have the characters there that disagree and get in his way. And
well, that's the thing with the whole like premise of that. It's why it's revolutionary, is because you have to have some kind of innate ability with magic, usually. Mm-hmm. And so it's like it has this natural limitation on it. But if you can produce it somehow, can like reduce it down to a science, then all of a sudden it just has crazy implications. Mm-hmm. So you can see like the beneficial ideas. The dangerous part of it is not understated in the show, though, because that's like kind of the initiating incident is the kids from the underground, from Zahn, Vander's kids. They get a tip about some good stuff in this laboratory apartment thing. They go break in. It turns out to be Jace's apartment, and he's got these very unstable little like crystals that have some type of like raw magical energy or something in them. And they're all going through his stuff, and Powder, Vi's little sister, who you're kind of shown really early on that the rest of the team is kind of like doesn't trust her. She's maybe not ready. Shouldn't really be with them.
She's
probably.
Young.
She's young.
And they think that she's not ready to be running with them.
Right. But
it's Vi's sister, so it's kind of like the leader,
nepotism,
the de facto leader. Yeah.
So she's like messing with them, and one falls, and then like the room starts to explode.
Oh yeah, this causes an explosion.
I mean, like it's crazy how devastating and unstable that it's like. The magical like lightning explosiveness will just arc. It will arc off of one thing and then arc into another thing, and then like go down the side of the building, and it just causes devastation.
And that's kind of like Jace's main goal too, is to find a way to stabilize and control that power that's in those those basically magic orb things.
Yeah. But so the show, I mean, so that being kind of like where the show. Kind of like the groundwork of the show. It's really about, I mean, I guess you have different characters' storylines. You have Vi. She has so much contempt for the Topsiders. She doesn't respect the like threat, the real danger, and that's really where things kind of go is because people don't really understand how fragile the peace is. You learn that from Vander that he's got this relationship with one of the like police people from the top side
who, by the way, is voiced by the chick who does like everything.
Avasarala.
Yeah,
she's Avasarala on The Expanse.
On The Expanse, she does. I mean, I hear her voice everywhere. She's in Destiny too.
Oh, really? She's just got a very...
In an old storyline.
She has a very... her like, voice is very distinct.
Yeah, like, in the story that Destiny 2 is in now, she's dead. But I'm pretty sure it sounds just like her voice as a character in that game. She does a lot of stuff. If you hear a voice like that, it's her, basically. Like, I've never heard anyone with a voice like that. Like, it's just it's got this kind of... I don't know, like kind of scratchiness to it. It's very interesting, but she's in everything. I love it.
Yeah, but so Vander has this very delicate piece that he's trying to keep between Zahn and Piltover by basically keeping his people in line. And it's just very fragile. And of course, his kids are the ones who kind of blow it wide open because. Whenever they go into that room and cause that damage, it's too big to ignore for the people up top to sweep under the rug or ignore. Yeah. So they've got to get someone answer for it, basically.
Yes. I mean, it blew up an entire building. I'm sure killed people or injured people,
Right.
I mean, it's think of it like a terrorist attack almost.
Right, that's kind of how they saw it.
And there's obviously tensions between the underground and the upper city. So
and the people in the upper city, they do not respect, like they don't respect the they just see like you get throughout the show. I mean, definitely in the first few episodes, but definitely more in later episodes. You get they have the contempt for people down in Zon, down in the underground, that it's just like, just send people down there and just get them in line, as if there couldn't be any consequences, as if those people will just, take it, die, whatever, just there's no idea that any kind of uprising could ever happen or anything like that. And so, really the first 3 episodes are really just building this tension, this kind of piling up like dynamite, so the match can be lit. And like Vander really was the only thing keeping that from happening. Once.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one that was talking with the authorities. He was the one that really was keeping everyone in check as far as like going up there. And I mean, there's even a scene in I think the second episode where there's a group in the bar that are talking to Vander about going up there and taking a stand, and Vander's like, basically no. Yeah. And you have these people walking out, and obviously I think you find out one of them is like the second head honcho, or the second in command to Silco, or becomes second in command to Silco. That woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, that's the thing. Silco is that one not Silco. Vander is the person he's the one from stopping the fuse from blowing the keg. Right. Yeah. This fuse is lit, but Vander's sitting there keeping it from grabbing that keg and blowing it. Between both the upper city and the undercity, because he's basically alleviating the authorities and what they need when he can. Obviously, we get to this point now where you have that whole situation that happened with the explosion, where Vander is making a stand of, I can't turn in Vi the kids. Yeah. So now it's becoming an issue of, what am I going to do? Because I still need to keep the peace, but I can't turn them in.
But because you have this, an interesting dynamic, I was thinking about it. It's always interesting in storytelling when characters are like interrupting each other and interrupting each other's plans. It's like Vander, and it could have happened where Vander could have given himself up and the storyline could have gone that direction, but because you have Silco and his plans are happening simultaneously, he has made a break, the same way that up on the top side you have Jace and Victor, they're working on their breakthrough. He's just made a breakthrough with something called Shimmer, and it's this drink thing that you can drink that kind of makes you go a little bit like the Hulk for a little while. And so he's planning on kind of weaponizing that against the top side, I guess. I mean, I think that's what it seems to me like. That's what his original kind of goal with it was. So right whenever Vander is going to give himself up, those plans crash into his. The guy, this guy that he's made drink this, is there and kills the guy who was going to take over for Vander of keeping the peace, and then they take Vander in. And then that sets up episode 3, which is a train wreck, and not in it was a bad episode, but a
train wreck in a good way.
Yeah, it was a train wreck that, horrifying to see happen, but it's very interesting, like all the way up to the end. I just so many emotions watching that episode.
So many things happen, so many emotions. And
so in episode 3, they've got Vander, and of course Vi is like gonna make a plan to try to get him because she doesn't listen. Obviously, and that's kind of a thing. It's like I as a parent, I see this show and I'm like, this is how it feels. It's like I'm not telling you this because I'm mean. I'm telling you this because I can see where this can lead, and if you just listen to me, you wouldn't be in so much pain. And so Powder has like clearly some serious, and I understand it. Everyone deals with trauma differently. She clearly has some issues from her, like dealing with issues from her trauma of just seeing her parents dead at a young age, just living in that unstable kind of environment. You see it, kind of going back a little bit, you see it whenever they're fighting with those kids in the first episode, how she just kind of freezes and backs away. Everything slows down for her when watching everyone fight. And she just can't function almost in that trauma. So her reaction in episode 3, whenever Vi tells her, look, you're not ready, that is like, that crushes her. It breaks her.
Well, it's all she wants to. You kind of notice throughout the episodes, it's like she wants to be...
Yeah.
Basically be ready. She wants to be part of the group, part of the gang.
Belong and be contributing.
And she feels like she isn't. I mean, I think it goes back to, I think, the first episode where the other boys are talking to Vi about her, and they say like she's a screw up and blah, blah, blah. And Vi, there's a moment where Powder's listening, and Vi says like something like, you're right. And then that's all Powder hears is her being like, you're right. Like, Powder's a screw up. And then she walks away. And then Vi finishes it with like, you're an idiot, basically. Shut up. We all were young, or something like that.
Basically, Powder can't annoy me to no end like you. You know, like negative stuff. Powder can't do whatever we can all do, and you know, anyway.
But all Powder hears is you're right, she's worthless. And so it's just all this, it's all compounding to this. I mean, it all kind of is working towards this final little third episode.
And so, you know, while they are, so Vi and her team, they sneak in to save Vander, and it's of course super easy. And Vander's like, how'd you get in? There's so many guards. And they're like, oh, it was easy. We found an open window, and then realized right away they were allowed to get in so he could catch everyone and whatever I don't know exactly his plans, but they walked right into them.
Now they're all captured.
They're all captured.
Vander, Vi, and the two boys.
Enter probably... kind of thematically, I mean, like that 3-episode arc is its own kind of story, you know, has a beginning, middle, end.
There's a time skip.
That concluding fight, you know, she puts on, I guess she brought him with her.
Vander's gloves.
Vander's metal gloves that he had used back in the days of the Revolution. And she straps him on, and that first guy that she clocks, she just uppercuts him. I mean, that shot is just so epic. The music is, everything's on point.
This scene right here is really what solidified, like, I mean, I already was blown away by the animation, but this fight scene here was like really like, oh my gosh, this is top tier.
Yeah. I don't know, just a lot of impact. You know, very impactful scene. The way they do everything, the way they frame everything. So Vi is fighting. They're trying to get Vander out of these this metal constraints he's in, and she's on this catwalk, so she can kind of take them as they come. You know, she lets them come to her, lets them make the first move. You know, does it very, very smart the way she fights in those on that catwalk. At the same time, Powder has a bright idea to take those magical orbs that she stole from that place, which I don't think she fully did. I mean, like, they knew there was an explosion in that building. I don't know if they saw and realized fully that the explosion was from those.
Yeah, I think Powder kind of deduced that the explosion came from that, but she doesn't understand how...
She dropped them on the ground, and they started, like, arcing, and then they kind of calmed down. So she saw that, like, oh, that there's something to that. But man... She has these little bombs that she tries to make that never work.
The symbol.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so this last one. Yeah, it has a symbol, and I was like looking at the symbols. The symbols have spikes. And then she drops 2 of them into the thing. So there's 2 inside of it, and then there's 1 in between the symbols, and it's this like monkey thing that's like clapping them together.
Oh man, so she does 3 of the orbs.
So Powder brings this, and she sees that they're in trouble, because the last thing that happens is, with Vi fighting on the catwalk, is that he finally sends in the guy who's hulked out on the shimmer.
Yeah, the shimmer.
And she gets a couple good, or no, she doesn't get a couple good shots in, because I was thinking when I watched it, you sat there and you let them all come to you and you let them all make the first move. But with him, she runs, launches herself, completely opens up her defense by
the first move,
putting both arms up, and he just catches her by the neck. So she gets away from him and shuts the door to that room, slams the metal door shut before he can get in. And that's where Powder shows up and sees, I can save the day now. I can show them I'm useful.
Yes.
So she sends that stupid monkey thing.
It's all a culmination of the past 3 episodes of, I'm not good enough, you're not good enough.
Right.
and Powder feeling this way. And now she's like, I am good enough. I can do this. I can help them. And my gosh, your heart goes out to her because you want her to help, but you know it's not going to go well.
You know, I mean, like all of it. I mean, you want her to help, but also it's just like she shouldn't be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if she had a normal life, normal family, you didn't have to worry about saving your family from a hulked out like crazy thing.
True.
You know, so it's just
you don't
it's
normally
sad
save your
all
family
around.
from hulked out crazy things.
More
Ellie
stable upbringing. I guess.
Ellie doesn't save your family from hulked out.
That's what happens when you don't have parents, I guess. But
I mean, look at Batman.
Yeah, I mean,
he fights hulked out crazy things.
That's true. Sometimes he's hulked out.
I think we're figuring it out, man. It's the lack of parents.
I mean, that's usually how these things go. Kill their parents. They either become a superhero or a crazy person.
You know, there's a lesson there. I don't know what it is, but
well, I mean, parents are important. Like even I know. Well, Vander, like even if Vander, I was thinking about this too watching the show. Whenever, you know, Powder, obviously she's moping and sad because she heard one of the team members talking about her, and Vander is at the bar, the last drop, and she's sitting at the bar, and he gives her some kind of drink that I'm sure was age appropriate, and but like she's all mopey, and he's like just like trying to cheer her up, and I'm just thinking, you know, like even as messed up as she was and like traumatized and stuff, and even if she had messed up there at that, if she has just had Vander, you know, just had a good father figure, a good parent figure, she would have probably figured most things out, you know, gotten along okay, you know, which is why another reason why the ending of this is so tragic. So whenever she sends her little hoopty-doopty down to save the day, it goes berserk and it's exploding and arcing off of everything. It's out of control. There's just no aiming.
It is intense.
There's no aiming it, and it like vaporizes the bigger guy on their team, kid on their team, who had. Then this was like my brain when I was watching the show was like firing so fast, everything, because I'm like, oh wow, she's really gonna help. You know, I think she's actually gonna help. And then as soon as they get Vander loose, they get through the wall, and then when I'm like, oh wait, no, they don't need help. She's gonna screw everything up again.
Yep.
And then that's what happens. Everything, you know, starts blowing up around them, and it's awful.
This scene here too is also really, I mean, you kind of got the hints and the vibes from it as the show's gone on, but this is where it really kind of hit home that this is an adult animation show.
Yeah.
Because you have this explosion that happens. And, you know, most animation or most shows that are more kid friendly, or just more shows, tend to err on the side of like, oh, this crazy thing happened, but there aren't crazy consequences.
Right.
You know, like, oh, this main character screwed up really bad.
Exactly.
But the consequences aren't that bad. It'll be okay. Whatever. That doesn't happen here. The consequences here are bad.
A child got like
3 people died.
3 people killed, including her like father figure.
The 3 main characters died. Well, we thought were main characters died. Vander
up until that point, yeah.
Vander and the 2 other boys in the group die. Like right there. The only people that are left are Vi, Powder, obviously, and they would not have died. They would have gotten away. Yeah. And without Powder being there and doing that, they were out the wall. They were good. Yeah. They were breaking free. They're getting out. You know, so that's what really drove home to me of like, oh man, this is going to hit some heavy points. And I love that. Like I love a show that's not gonna, you know, pull punches. Cause sometimes it's nice to have that happy feeling of like, oh, you messed up, but we can fix it, the outcome. Yeah. But like, it's more realistic almost, and a better way to tell a story to have this happen and it not be okay. Like, this is not okay. Yeah, I mean, and the show, you know, ends up in a lot of ways, and with different characters' arcs and things, ends up being having a lot of cautionary tales. It's basically, it's not about
it's really not about the hero succeeding. It's about look how crazy the fallout can be when, people are traumatized, when people are victimized, when people are just left to their own devices to figure things out on their own. I mean, that's really what happened to Powder. And that's a frustrating thing about watching her. So much of the parenting aspect, like the parenting or like big sistering aspect of things, was you just got to figure it out. She's just having to figure things out on her own. Like everyone can see that she has issues, she has trouble. But Vi has that one, good pep talk with her which is really just to cheer her up. Like, we'll always stick together, always be there for you.
Yeah.
But not like, this is why you have to listen to me.
Yeah. This
is why you have to realize that when you are not ready for something, that you're actually helping if you listen and stay back,
And the rest of the show, after these episodes, the next 6 episodes or however many there are, really show through Powder's character what happens when you have an authority figure that just lets you do whatever.
Right.
That doesn't really teach you anything.
Right.
And as we'll see as we go along, it's not great. We'll talk more when we get to those episodes.
Yeah. It ends just, like I said, a train wreck. You're just looking at the wreckage at the end. Vander successfully saved Vi.
Vi lives.
Vi lives. He like basically used his last, little life he had left to juice up on some shimmer and save her. But then Vi, the one thing his dying words are, take care of Powder. Now, she didn't abandon Powder. She was just steaming. She was just like, stewing for a minute. She just needed a minute. She was like so upset, realizing that Powder had caused all this and didn't listen to her. She smacks Powder across the face and
oh yeah,
and then she walks away. And by the time she sees that Silco is walking up to Powder, she gets grabbed from behind, knocked unconscious by this dirty cop, basically.
Yeah.
Becomes a dirty cop for Silco. And
heartbreaking scene too, because you're like, this happens between her and Powder in the slap, and she walks away, and Powder's hurt because she's now feeling abandoned, and Vi realizes like she was just angry. Vi was angry.
Right.
She's going back. Like she wasn't abandoning Powder. She never wanted to abandon Powder. She's people get angry. Yeah. But she can't go back.
Right.
And this is the catalyst that eventually runs this Powder into Silco's arms.
Right. Because, Powder is just not stable. And
she's also seeking family. She's seeking someone to be there for her, be there with her.
Yeah.
To
let someone to let her be welcome.
Yes.
And
she's now, in her mind, lost all that with Vander being gone, the 2 boys being gone, and now Vi having abandoned her in her mind. Well, so she runs to the only person that's there now, and that's Silco.
Yep. That's where that ends. I mean, things end in a more positive way for Jace and Victor. They have their breakthrough with their magic.
They break through with the magic tech, and it's starting to work. And we'll go into more into that. Their story really kind of takes off in the later episodes.
It's more, it's much bigger in the next.
The first 3 episodes were definitely more heavily Powder and Vi.
Yeah. And I mean that their dynamic, their relationship is really the kind of the backbone of the show, of what's kind of driving the show.
I do like Victor as a character, though.
I do too.
And Jace.
Yeah, all the characters.
That's the thing about the show.
All the viewpoint characters are very well rounded.
Yeah, that's the other thing about the show is all the viewpoint characters. A lot of the characters are just very, very well done.
Yeah. Definitely.
Especially for a show that was based off a game that has been a MOBA for years and has not really, as far as I'm aware, done reached anything. Like, it just...
They definitely fleshed things out.
They just nailed this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we'll see more and more how they nailed it as we go, the next couple episodes into the further into the show. I mean...
Yeah.
This is definitely, especially as I rewatch it, it's gotta be one of my favorite animated shows out there right now.
Yeah.
And 45-minute episodes. I mean, I love.
Yeah.
It's not your traditional animated show. It's only 30, 25 minutes, whatever. These are full length episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
That have story packed in, and
yeah, 3 episodes is basically a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's I think 8 or 9 episodes total.
I think it's 9. I think there's 3 acts. Each act is 3 episodes.
Yeah. So definitely a good show. Definitely a strong start, and
very strong start.
I didn't know. I'll just say this: I didn't know there was going to be a time jump.
I didn't either.
When it came to that point, I was just like, "What even happens next?"
Yeah, I didn't either. Actually,
so it was definitely So we'll when we do the next episode, we'll come back to our characters a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly how many years later it is, but
they're grown up.
They're pretty much all grown up at that point. Yeah.
You have
Jace already.
This is when we'll start talking more into getting a little more into Jace and Victor, because a lot starts happening with them.
Yeah.
You have a couple more characters that get a little bit more prominent. The officer girl.
Yes, I thought she was cool.
She was a very cool character.
Yeah.
And then obviously back to Vi and Jinx. See what's going on in their life. What's going on between the upper city and the lower city.
That's right.
So be on the lookout for next episode. We start talking about that.
We'll see how the lanes do without Vander. Silco's the only leader left.
Something tells me not great.
Dun dun dun. Awesome. Well, we'll be back with another episode next time. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends.
Please do. Remember, if you want us to read through at least the first book of Animorph, send in an email.
Okay. Yeah.
We will do it.
We will do it
for your wonderful ears to hear.
All right. Well, this has been a Bridge of Two podcast. Far, far away bridge. This episode has been sponsored by Kyrie. A cat by the Carrigs.
Whoa, who are the Carrigs?